You always hear his voice booming over the public address system, talking about airplanes and all the action in the air and on the ground. That's just part of an airshow announcer's job. Schultz Airshows has two professional airshow announcers with over 2 decades of experience each. Let's take a closer look at the responsibilities of a professional airshow announcer and what it takes to make an exciting airshow. Not even plugged in.
We're just moments away from the opening ceremonies of day 2 of the Open House and Air Show. We've got a great lineup for you. We got a lot of fun, a lot of flying going on. You're going to have a great time, and it's all not costing you anything. That's amazing. What a deal. So we want you to have a lot of fun while you're out here today. We have aircraft on standing display on the far north end of the ramp. If you haven't made your way up here this direction yet, we've got the KC-10, we've got the AWACS, we've got the E-8, we've got the C-17, all on the far north end of the ramp area, available for tours. If you want to take a look at some of these aircraft on the inside, we have a number of other aircraft you can take a look at. But remember, please do not climb on board any aircraft unless you're given permission to do so.
One of my jobs as an airshow announcer, of course, is to keep the troops entertained, the folks watching the air show. Many of them, of course, are outside, they're in the sun, they've got kids, they've got a lot of concerns. And so my job as the air show announcer, of course, is to help direct their attention, or maybe away from the unpleasantries of being outside to enjoying the air show that they're watching, keeping the energy going forward, keeping the excitement, keeping them focused on what's happening in the sky in front of them so that they have a fun, enjoyable afternoon.
If you're a real air show junkie like me, man, come out both days, have some fun. Let's enjoy ourselves. That's it. We've got such a lineup for you.
High overhead, the KC-10 and the C-17. All the KC-10 serves primarily the AMC's premier air refueling asset. It is capable of refueling fighters while simultaneously carrying fighter support personnel and equipment overseas, transporting up to 75 people and nearly 170,000 pounds of cargo.
Take a look at our Airbus A400 parked there. They go through or take a tour inside that airplane, or you can walk over to Dewey there with his F-18 cockpit. Become top. I try to talk about the airplanes that are in front of the people on static display. If nobody's flying at that time, you go around the ramp, talk about the airplanes that are on display. So they can get up close to them. Normally they can touch them, they can look at them. Because somebody, one of the performers taxi by, you try and tell them about the performer in the airplane before he starts the routine, because a lot of the guys and gals that are flying, you don't have time to talk about them when they're flying. You got to tell them beforehand, because when they're doing maneuvers, it's back to back to back. They're slamming maneuvers. You want to talk about what they're doing with the airplane at that time, not about their history. I try to fit in what I can between maneuvers when possible, but most of the time it's just tell the people what's going on. That's what you got to do.
And we're just moments away from the first aircraft approaching, which will be a T-38 Talon. This is a supersonic trainer used by the United States Air Force. Fortunately for me as the airshow announcer, a lot of the audio equipment, of course, is already set up. I have a few things that I do control from my advantage point. One is the music. I keep all my music on a laptop. That way I can control the music for the different performers, get that ready to go. Got my sponsor notes, of course, the airshow schedule, all set up, ready to go. So again, my job is more talk than technical, so I don't have a lot to set up, but I get all my notes, information, and music ready to go, and I'm ready for the show.
This is what works for me. We started doing air shows years ago. Nobody flew their own music. It's just music in the background playing. Then they started flying their own music. We started with cassette tapes. They had a cassette tape player. Then we went to CDs. Then we went to iPods after that. iPods progressed up to iPads. iPads don't like the sunshine because they get hot and shut off. We're lucky now we have a tarp over top of them. Dave Schultz Airshows on it. We can keep some things in shade. Started going to computers, so I load everybody's music on the computer. So I've got access to it anytime I want. And it seems to work. Of course, there's my own little design here top for keep computer cool. Of course, David Schultz Airshows on there, you know. But this seems to work. Mike, our other announcer out west, he's got a pad that he uses. This program works for me. Get things loaded up, and we're good to go. Take things down, mark them off as we go. Sponsor list is in here. Schultz Airshows here, sequencing here, back up here. And just in case we take pictures of everything, of course, got to have the radio talk to them too. This is a mess, but it's the way it's supposed to be right now. Works for me. Might not work for somebody else, but works for me.
Still going, and keep putting off.
about air shows? Well, the first thing would be the people. I love working with airshow people. It has been such an honor and a privilege to get to work with some of the finest performers, finest pilots in the world. The next thing would probably be the history. I love warbirds. Warbirds have always been a passion of mine since I first started in air shows. I love the history of being able to represent what took place so many years ago, the great conflict of World War II, and then using that to bring us into our modern aircraft of today. The history is amazing. So combining the people, the history, the planes, you put it all together, it's incredible. I've enjoyed it tremendously.
What do I love about air shows? Well, I love airplanes, I love the people at air shows. The air show clientele, the performers, it's a tight-knit group. There's really, in the grand scheme of things, not a whole lot of aerobatic pilots out there if you look at it. And they're all looking out for each other at air shows. We've had people at air shows where somebody doesn't move or doesn't look right. They come up to that pilot later and say, what happened on that? And they tell, and they'll sit there and discuss it. They try to help each other out. It's not, well, he's flat out, I don't want to talk to him or her. No, they discuss it, and the people are just good. I love the air show people, the air show crowd. The people that come to an air show are just as good. They enjoy the air show. It's funny, you get to different crowds, how some people enjoy one act more than another act. And it could be different at another air show. And it's kind of neat. You try to make them all think the same when you announce them, try to keep them involved in the show. But it's just the people, the performers at air shows are just great. That's what I love about air shows.
F-35 plane. I'll get it right in a minute. It's been a long day in the hot sun. What can I tell you? It's great. F-35 Lightning. One advantage that I have, of course, is I have become a pilot myself. Been flying for a number of years, even got a commercial hot air balloon license. So I can understand and appreciate the environment that our performers are operating in. I can understand what they're going through, understand, again, some of the experiences that a pilot goes through, so that I can communicate this also to the people on the ground, because many of the people, of course, at an air show aren't pilots. They don't fly, may not know much about aviation. So it does help if you have some better understanding of what our performers are going through, so I can transmit that and share that with the people on the ground.
I've flown, I don't know how many different types of airplanes, but I instructed in ultralights for years. At my home airport, we were a dealer for Hyper aircraft, and a friend of mine owned the company, so I started helping him. I instructed for years. I had a old weight shift ultralight Hyper Amex, or Hyper I should say at the time, weight shift, with a Yamaha engine on it, and I flew that back and forth to the airport. That was just a lot of fun. Then we've got up to the more advanced airplanes, ultralights back in the 80s, this was, not anything current. And I've flown all different types of ultralights. I probably have excess of 400 hours flying ultralight aircraft. I've had 17 engine failures in ultralights. Never been a two. I like that part. I have my own. I got my own private license when I was probably about 24. I got my license. I bought an airplane for my brother-in-law in 1976 and been flying that ever since. I still own that airplane today. It's been 46 years almost I've owned that airplane now. And it's just part of the family. It's a Cessna 140, a 1946 Cessna 140. And it's just, I fly that as much as I can. Flown as far as Oklahoma City with it, down to Florida, up north with it. Had a lot of fun. I keep it at Falston Airport, and Falston now is about 4 miles from my house, which makes it very convenient. My home airport, it used to be Harford County Airport at 0 Whiskey 3. But they made a lot of changes, and I couldn't afford to stay there, so I had to move up to Falston with the aircraft. I still love flying a 140. It sits there, and I'm hoping to get home tonight and go flying tomorrow morning with the airplane if all goes well. Get up early and go home and go play.
Let's give it up for Emily. Great job, man. That is beautiful. Right on the money. On target landing out there for the Golden Knights.
You know, some people may ask, well, do you do air show announcing full time? Well, no, not completely. I do have other jobs and other things I do, from voice work to other fun stuff, or whatever I can find to do.
My day job, I'm a plumber. I've learned how to take crap off of everybody. That's my job. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Yeah, no, 7 days a week normally, unless I'm doing an air show somewhere. I've had 3 calls today for work on Monday morning when I get home, but that's part of my job. Been doing it all my life, and I'll keep doing it. Got to pay the rent somehow. Air shows pays my hobbies. Work pays for all the bills. When they're doing pilot briefings, the role of the announcer, such as myself or Mike, is to get the information you can from people that are there. Sometimes the performers they don't get your information to you early enough, and they show up the pilot brief. You try to get it so you kind of know what's going on with their acts. And it's fun to sit there and listen to what goes on at pilot briefing with Dave or Anthony or Greg or Eric, or they're putting the briefing on. Listen to them, how they go through the different ways the different air bosses do a briefing. The outcome for us is always the same. It's always an exit briefing. My job is to get the information I can from the guys that are there. And my big job with Dave is to give him the time. I get the time, what time it is, hack time. So all right, but that's just something a little game we play back and forth. But air show briefing with an announcer, just make sure you're there to meet the guys and talk to them. I have more fun the night before talking to the performers. I learn more then than doing a briefing, to get to talk to them and find out what they're like. What happens at an air show when you have a problem? Nothing good at that point, but we've worked at it over the years. I was the announcer when the stealth crashed at Martin State Airport back in 1997, I believe it was. I was announcing that air show. And come to find out, about 6 or 8 years later, we were doing an air show down in Florida. And it came up to me before the show, the night before the show, we're at a meeting, and the guy said, what happens if we have an accident tomorrow at the air show? And I said, well, we're lucky here that we have 2 sound systems set up. We can keep on going, keep the crowd where they should be, not let them get out of the runway or get excited, try to keep the crowd happy. He said, I was announcing, again, when the stealth crashed. One of the guys said, that was you? I said, yes, it was. He goes, never mind. The Air Force uses that video from the stealth crash with you as their teaching process what to do when there's an accident at an air show, which I didn't know they were doing that, but that's what I was told. So I don't like that. I've been several accidents at air shows. We had nothing to do with it, just happens. Lost a good friend at an air show when it crashed. But you just stand there and you work through it, you talk about the people, you try to keep everybody in their place, tell them what's happening with the air show, what's happening with the crowd, what's happening on the runway, they can see what's happening out there. Try to keep them calm, that's all you can do. And tell them what's going to happen next if you know. It's just always keep the crowd informed. That's part of the announcing thing. Don't walk away and drop the mic. That's not what you do. You keep talking to the crowd, try to keep the crowd calm down and under control. Tell them don't turn your cell phones on. Let the emergency personnel use their cell phones. It's not pleasant, but it happens.
Stay where you are, folks. This is okay. Stay where you are. Okay, we've piled this out, and we've got a good shoot.
Many of you know, or may not know, most of you I'm sure do, know that we lost a member of our Airshow family yesterday afternoon. It's a hard thing when that happens. But we'd ask that you stand and join us for a few moments, in a moment of silence, as we pay tribute to our fallen pilot, Thank you very much.